Good morning, this is Harry Ricker. I'm a farmer in Turner, Maine with Ricker Hill Orchards. We have been growing apples since 1803 on the same farm in Turner. We grew apples for 2 generations before that in Maine. And there's, I think, 11 family members working on the farm, and we have over 200 employees helping us out during our busy season as well. We have always been interested in integrated pest management, which is commonly known as IPM. And my grandfather and father pioneered it, and I took that and moved into organic production in the 1990s. We peaked out at about 172 acres of certified organic. At that time, we had maybe 500-600 acres total. Of the 172 acres that we did organically, by 2008 the writing was on the wall that organic production could be done much more efficiently and less costly on the West Coast, where they grow apples in desert climate, because they have much less disease pressure and much less insect pressure there. So we brought organic production down fairly quickly to the 5 acres that we have now. And in the meanwhile, the IPM, the integrated pest management that we were doing, we joined up with some fellow growers who had similar thoughts on it with a group called Red Tomato and a program that they call Eco Apples. So we've been happy with the relationship with Eco Apple and Red Tomato, and environmentally, there's no question in our mind that we feed our kids and my grandkids our IPM apples, and we think the Eco Apples is what the discerning mothers should be looking for in the grocery stores. So our marketing is primarily ourselves. We market to the Hannaford chain, which is large here in Maine. Shaw's is the other largest chain, and we use them. Whole Foods has the second largest store in Maine, and they're our best sales store alone. And the biggest store in Maine is called Market Basket. They've got 2 now, and we also supply them with apples. 90% of our fruit is sold in Maine and eastern New Hampshire, mostly in these chains. We do have some fairly large retail operations, but I live in Maine and there's no people in Maine, so we don't really know what large retail operations are. And then 5 to 10% of our sales are with Eco Apple and Red Tomato, and that we hope to be a growing aspect of our operation in the future, and we're optimistic it's going to be better. Eco Apple fits into our business plan to the effect that they pretty much mirror our belief on doing what's environmentally correct, and not environmentally popular, but environmentally correct. And so unlike a lot of the eco growers, we spend that extra money to do this on the entire acreage. If it's not the 5% that's organic, then it's Eco Apple certified with our operation. And we don't get a premium at all of our accounts because of Eco Apple, but we get a premium at all of our accounts because they know us and they know that we're environmentally friendly in the way that we do things. So growing our business with the Eco Apple label, we think is going to help us get the premium we need to keep our family in apples for another 9 generations. So if I look at the last 9 generations and the passion that my family has held for growing apples, I wasn't sure if my children were going to be passionate about apples, and I feel fortunate that two of my 3 sons are in the business fully vested, and they've between them got 5 grandchildren for me. But so hopefully, if they're passionate about it, I think that we have good customers that care about buying local and buying our stuff and paying the little bit of premium that it takes to keep us doing it. And As long as we can keep that passion alive, I think we could be doing this for a long time in the future. So, in the way that we grade our certifications with EcoApple, we have basic IPM standards, and then we have some you get more credit for that are advanced IPM standards. And a big part of it for us right now is the economics of wholesale apple growing are really tough financially, and if they cost a lot, it's harder to pick up new practices like that. Then some of them, you know, you scout for bugs, you find new traps or ways to manage them that don't cost a lot more than the old ones, but they work. Anytime we can not use the pesticide and we can use a practice to control them, then we don't get any innocent bystanders that get killed that are living in the environment in our orchards. So we're always big on that stuff, but we don't. When you're doing 300 acres of this stuff and it costs you an extra $100 an acre over regular IPM management, it's expensive to jump into some of the newest stuff. Some of it is just a no-brainer, and we do that. Right. Two of the newer practices, so the newest practice is we've always, with IPM, done a decent amount of perimeter. So we spray just the apple trees on the outside of a block. And it works with pests that tend to fly in from the woods, and they land in the outside trees, and then they migrate inwards. So when they land in the outside trees, we've got those protected with an insecticide. We don't bother to spray any insecticides, so we have very little insecticides on the inside of our orchards, especially from summertime on. And so we've tried different ways of bolstering the amount of the attractiveness of these perimeter trees, trying to make it more enticing to get the bad bugs to stop in the outside rows as they move in to crunch and eat our apples and oviposit in our apples. One of the choices we did was adding sugar into the mix. And what this amounts to with the apple maggot fly particularly is that the sweetness is evidently mimics the sweetness in a riper apple. And we grafted the earliest ripening apples onto these limbs because then it makes them more enticing. Well, we tried adding the sugar to it as well, and it was kind of a shot in the dark, and we think that really helps. And 4 years ago, I think it was, that Steve Wood and I and Chuck Souther were talking about that, and Jaime Pinero from the University of Massachusetts was always looking for new research things. He's very good about looking for ideas from the growers. And together came up with an idea to graft varieties of apples onto those outside rows that the bugs really like. They tend to go to those trees first. And at the same time, we also planted some plum trees because plum cuculio is one of our most devastating pests, and they like plums better than apples. My plum trees all died. They don't like Maine winters. But there are a few left. And along with this, we also added into that experiment, we put 10 pounds of sugar into the mix that we spray on the outside trees. And the research that Jaime's done is showing that it's really helping. And we're getting a much higher percentage of kill by only doing the perimeter than we used to do. And so that's been a success. And we've done most of our acreage perimeters with the grafting at this point. And an older one that we've been doing for 25 years that's really caught on is with mites. Mites tend to be the most expensive pest to kill. And so the mites that we found, even though we did a lot of IPM, we had good bugs out there to eat them, we were still having to spray for mites more than we wanted. And one of the researchers, Glenn Kaler from the University of Maine, was going over it with me, and I said, what am I doing different from people having luck with mites and IPM? And he said, Well, the biggest difference when I look at your orchard is yours looks like a golf course and theirs has long grass here and there and everywhere. So I went out that year and I mowed every other row. And then when the grass would get longer in the mowed rows, then I'd mow the long grass rows. And we cut our miticide use by threefold that one year. So now we mow to one side of every row and then alternate the side. So we have 3/4 of it mowed instead of half. And it still looks awful, but what we found is that the good bugs tend to live in the long grass at night. And when you take away the habitat that they like to spend the night in, they move out of the orchard, and then the mites get out of control without having the good bugs there to eat them. So that's two of the advanced practices, and two practices that we're firm believers in.